Good evening, everybody. My name is Daniel Bourdonnais, and I'm the founder of Bisep, and this is my business partner, David D'Angelo. So a little bit about myself. I graduated with my Bachelor of Kinesiology and my Master of Applied Health Sciences, both from Brock University. And while I was a student there, I started practicing as a kinesiologist across many different facilities. And I found the manner in which we did our ambulation and mobility training relatively unsafe and inefficient. For example, I found 4 essential pain points in the manner in which you do our ambulation training. The first, and perhaps the most important, is that it takes 2 to 3 healthcare practitioners to complete this training. One therapist to walk with the patient, and another therapist to follow behind with the wheelchair. Now, in my case, we didn't always have that second therapist there, so these seniors were spending more sedentary time because they weren't walking. And when they spent more sedentary time, it meant they developed medical ailments a lot quicker. In fact, just hiring one part-time worker to help with ambulation training costs the North American healthcare system $3.6 billion a year. So as I mentioned, I didn't always have a second therapist there. So when I got brave enough, I tried to do the task myself, to walk with the patient and then to drag the wheelchair behind them. This was both very unsafe and inefficient. And in fact, we find that the majority of injuries in the hospital healthcare system come from patient transfer and musculoskeletal injuries. So because these patients aren't walking, they're developing sedentary time medical ailments, but they're also developing a fear of falling. And through our research and observation, we found that 36% of seniors living in long-term care homes have this fear of falling. And then those that were brave enough to try to walk on their own often resulted in an accident or a fall. And that's very, very costly, as the average patient in a hospital setting that has a fall with assisted device costs them $42,000. So in order to combat all these issues, I got together with my late grandfather. He was a tool and die maker. And we started working in his garage, and together we created the A.R.M.M, the ambulation retraining mobility mechanism. This device attaches any wheelchair to any walker, allows the patient to walk with the walker while the wheelchair trails behind them, provides them with a lateral and posterior support system. And for the healthcare companies, they don't need to find that second person to push a wheelchair from behind. Thus, this device increases the frequency, increases the safety, and decreases the cost associated with ambulation training. So we knew that was good in theory, but how did it work with the patients? So we tested over 60 patients across 20 different facilities here in the Niagara region on the cognitive and physical components of walking with our device compared to that traditional method. And our results indicated that their walking speed increased by 24%, their walking distance increased by 15%, which puzzled us. They're using a more robust and heavier system. How are they walking faster and further? So when we take a look at their cognitive measures, we found out that their self-confidence shot up by 48%, and their fear of falling dropped by 20% when using that A.R.M.M device. So we know it's good in theory, we know it works with the patients, but how do the therapists feel about it? So over the last 2 years, we've asked over 100 different therapists through focus groups, the most notable one at Gervais Hospital, if they would use this device or recommend it to another practitioner. The results indicated that 90% said they would use this device or recommend it to another practitioner. Here are a couple testimonials, one from a patient. I believe the A.R.M.M product is the reason I was able to quickly get back on my feet after my amputation. And one from a therapist. This product is amazing. The A.R.M.M is a necessary tool to have in all healthcare facilities. I use it in my physiotherapy practice daily. So is there a market opportunity for this? So through a Mars research report and our own research, we found out that there's 120 healthcare facilities that include hospitals, retirement homes, long-term care homes, and physiotherapy clinics across North America. And we want to target 25% because we want to partner with the largest distributors and group purchasing organizations that own a majority of the market. And then we also want to sell 10 units per facility that we target, giving us a market share of 300,000 units or $162 million. In regards to a competition, we don't have any direct competition because our device is a novel device that attaches any wheelchair to any walker for the purposes of ambulation training. But a secondary aspect to our device is to help with patient transfer. And we do have some competition there. These are one of the most common used in the healthcare system. But as you can see, all of them still require at least one healthcare practitioner, and they're all very costly. So what's our competitive advantage? Well, we have a utility patent issued in the United States and one pending in Canada. We have FDA and Health Canada approval. We completed our clinical trials. And from our feedback, we found it was actually easier for patients and safer for the therapist. Plus, our device is more versatile because not only is it a patient transfer device, it's also an ambulation retraining device as well.
So how are we going to generate revenue? Will be primarily through two channels. One, directly to healthcare facilities. We expect this to account for 33% of our sales, and the sale price will be $800 to these healthcare institutions. The bigger market for us will be the distributor and group purchasing organizations. The price per device will be $550 for resale, and we expect it to account for 67% of our sales. In later years, as our demands grow, we are going to look to strategically license this IP in new territories, such as China and India, but we will partner with North American wheelchair and walker manufacturers to bring it to market there. To date, we have 25 pre-orders by healthcare institutions.
So for our 4-year projection, we have our revenue along the top and our milestones along the bottom. So this year we worked really hard to get our FDA approval and Health Canada approval as well. And by the end of the year, we want to hire our first full-time engineer. In 2021, we want to have 3,500 devices sold with a revenue of $1.9 million. We also want to lock down 10 distributors and start hiring a full sales team. 2022, we want to have 5,500 devices sold with $3.2 million in revenue. We want to lock down 20 distributors and enter the European market. And by 2023, we want to have 12,000 devices sold, $6.6 million in revenue, and we want to start looking at these global opportunities for licensing.
So how we do it, we're currently in our assembly space here where we have a fleet of 3D printers, and we actually 3D print all the parts for the device, and our capacity currently as it stands is about 8,000 devices per year. We realize with a couple of really large orders, it won't be enough to suffice for that. So we already have sourced injection molding companies who we will outsource our manufacturing to. They also actually take care of the warehousing and drop shipping. I have a background in blow molding and frequently work with injection molding companies, so I'm very familiar with that process. We've priced out our 8 molds, and it came in around $50,000 for the molds and tooling. That, when we do that, it'll bring our capacity to 480,000 devices per year.
So we have a very versatile team, myself as a CEO and founder, and David D'Angelo, who is our Vice President of Sales and Operations. And then, as he's mentioned, he's had a massive manufacturing facility before and exited to one of his competitors. Dr. David Dieter, who's one of Canada's leading spinal cord injury researchers and who is our Director of Research and Clinical Trials. And then our 2 amazing students from the Synapse competition, Soaib and Nagad. Regard to advisors, all of our advisors have a deep experience or have exited a medical device or medical tech company. Bob Saunders, Dan Lynch, Deborah Linvey, and Sam Moranzo.
So our ask today for anyone watching, if anyone is a healthcare institution or can refer us to anyone in these organizations that may use the device, please refer us. We also are interested to relocate our business in the Hamilton area. We know the big expansion with McMaster Innovation Park and how it'll be a hub for life science companies. We believe that'll be the best area for a company to be located. Finally, we are raising a seed round in the fall of $500,000. If anyone is interested, please send us an email.
If we were successful in winning this pitch competition, we use the majority of the funding to build our devices, fulfill our pre-orders, and build an inventory. We will also use a portion of it for a PCT or Europe and a financial investor package. We will use a portion of it for marketing, specifically product videos in our e-commerce website. And then we'll use another portion of it to compensate our 2 amazing students in the Synapse competition. I want to say thank you to all the amazing support we gained from all these organizations, and most notably the Innovation Factory and the Synapse competition. And because we have a little bit of time, we're just going to do a quick product demonstration. This device attaches the wheelchair to the walker. It clips in here on the bottom, and then another small attachment here on the top for safety purposes. Now the patient can transfer themselves from the wheelchair to the walker and walk. If the arms are left down, the patient has no turning capabilities. If these arms are raised, the patient has a full turning capability. That is it for our presentation. We want to thank you guys for taking the time to listen to us, and we will gladly accept any questions. Thank you very much. Thank you. Chairs are so squeaky. Off people like texting. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. It's Jennifer Hamilton here to ask your first question. It's so funny, you said that if anyone was interested in investing, they should send you an email rather than a check. That was great. But first question, how hard is it to convince people to buy this? You mentioned you had 25 pre-orders. I'm curious to know, what is the factor that convinces them to place that order?
I think the main factor is just trialing the device. I think we generate so much interest, and I will admit that these 25 pre-orders did not come from us doing any marketing. Those strictly came from us being in different competitions, showcasing device at conferences, and doing the clinical trials with the patients. So I think once they actually see the productivity it can create, then I think that's when
the people making the purchasing decision quite often aren't the people who actually use it. So I'm just wondering, are they dependent on that economic data that you can show, or lack of falls? I'm just wondering if you need any further data to help convince people for future sales.
Yes, so Dan did do the clinical trials as he explained earlier, and we think that's really the main selling point, because the therapists are really kind of pushing their purchaser at the organization that this is a device that will help them actually do their job more effectively and increase productivity.
Yeah, and in addition to that, what we're planning on doing in the near future is doing more of a longitudinal study, in which we will bring these devices into long-term care homes, hospitals, retirement homes, and then we can take data from the lack of falls that this device produces, and how much more efficient and safer it is. So right now we have preliminary trials that are clinical trials with the patients, but we want to have a more longitudinal study as well, so that the organizations can see the cost savings and the benefit through a 6-month period.
Mm-hmm. It's just sometimes, especially with medical devices, you get a flurry of sales at first from the enlightened people who have heard about your technology or have used it, but selling it to that next wave can be more challenging. And I was curious just to know what kind of data you'd need. So that's great. Thank you. I'll pass it on to the next questioner.
Okay, I'll go next. You guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Well, thanks very much for the presentation. Excellent. A couple of questions around your volumetrics. So if I heard you correctly, you said you're targeting roughly about 10 units per institution. Did I get that right? And so help me understand, what does that mean? Is that one per floor? Like, how are you getting to that number, or how is that number being realized in the institution? Do you see them dividing them up by ward? How do you see that?
So that's a great question. So through our focus groups and of the 100 practitioners we asked, part of the questions we asked is, how many do you think is a minimum that you would need for your facility? And the average answer that we got was 10 units per facility. Some were higher, some were more, depending on how big the institution was. Like something like Juravinski Hospital, they were upwards about 50 from the actual practitioners, but for smaller institutions, they would need about 10 was the average answer. So that's where we got those numbers from in regards to how many units. But a lot of the practitioners we were talking to too said that it would be ward dependent and having a certain amount per ward.
Right. Okay. And so on the device itself, is there an element of training and or in-servicing required during rollout?
Yep. Oh.
Sorry, did you hear me?
I heard about training, but then I missed the
Yeah,
second.
so training or in-servicing, how much is required for a particular healthcare professional?
Yes, absolutely. So in regards to the training, it's a really simple device, but what we're going to do is we're going to be offering YouTube videos, manuals, and different types of scenario training for them, case studies. What happens if somebody has a fall with the device? What do you do? Different procedures that we've all experienced or thought of, at least through our trials. And then in regards to having customer support, Dave will touch up on that.
Yeah, we'll have a support line. It's like a 9 to 5 call line. It'll be us answering, but as working right now and getting a 1-year product warranty, we're just having our legal team help draft that document. Spare parts will be sold on the website as well. And then the main thing that we're going to do to help repair these devices is if it doesn't meet the warranty, we are trying to partner with Vital Mobility or some of the wheelchair repair companies who they would actually be able to fix the device in different parts of North America. So we'd call them and they would take care of the service.
And last question from me, with respect to the wheelchair and the walkers, is your device brand agnostic? It can work with any manufacturer of wheelchair?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we tried our best to do the majority of them. So I like to say that we're about 99% adaptable with the majority of the wheelchair walkers out there. I mean, such as your Drives and Invacare, things like that. Of course, there are a couple funky different wheelchairs and walkers that will be difficult for us to adhere to. But since we do produce a lot of our parts with a 3D printer, especially the connection to the wheelchair and the walker, we can custom make any part as long as they let us know what walker and wheelchair they have. And then we'll do research to find the specs on it and then make the appropriate adaptations to the device.
Okay, good. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
And Guy, did you have any questions?
Yeah, so I'd just like to know around the distributors and GPOs, have you done any direct presentations to them to get their feedback? And also, do you have any early indications as to which distributors would actually be interested in carrying the device?
Absolutely. So yeah, we've talked with Transform Shared Service Organization. They're out of the Windsor area as one of our main focuses for the GPOs, as well as EGTA. They are a occupational therapy and physiotherapy supply company based out of Vaughan, Ontario, and they just opened up a Hamilton, Niagara Chapter 2. So those are the two that we're in current conversations with. But our goal is to get with or try to get in with Mohawk Medbuy, because from our understanding, they're one of the major GPOs for the hospital systems here in Ontario. And then again, companies like Stryker and MediSystems had early interest, early conversation, and we're still trying to formalize that proper relationship with them.
Very good, thank you. What about reimbursement? Have you done any research around payers that may be willing to reimburse this device?
Yeah, so that's a great question too. So we spent the summer in Flint, Michigan as part of an accelerator and working with them to get the codes for their Medicare and Medicaid reimbursement program. And right now we're in the process of applying for the assistive device program, the ADP program, and trying to get a reimbursement model with them as well. Because we are an assistant device, there is a likelihood that we would be at minimum 75% covered, depending on the socioeconomic status of the actual user and buyer. But all those processes are in the work right now, and we plan by the time we get to market that there will be a reimbursement for our device, whether private or public insurance.
We think fulfilling the 25 pre-orders or a few more that we get, that'll also help strengthen our case to get reimbursed once they can validate it in the market.
Then last question for me, just around IP and obviously competition and staying ahead of the competition. You know, I know you spoke that there really isn't anything like this today, but you know, what sort of IP do you have, and how long do you think you would maintain your competitive advantage?
That's a great question. So right now, as mentioned in our presentation, we have a utility patent in the United States. And that utility patent is a patent of attaching a wheelchair to a walker. Any device attaches a wheelchair to a walker. Canada, we just have it pending right now because we wanted to make sure that the US was issued before we continued examination of our Canadian patent. And again, how we're going to stay above the competition is by making different adaptations to our device to make it more versatile, listening to our users and getting feedback from them to make this the #1 brand that they want for this device. In addition to that, we also have future products that we're bringing into market. Again, this is one of our products. It's called the ACE leg, in which we partner with another company to bring to market. So this leg, we don't want to become a one device brand. We want to have a multitude of devices on our e-commerce website and essentially ensure that we are technology for the aging and disabled populations.
And one, as we want to enter new kind of more risky markets like say China, where IP protection can be a lot more difficult, our strategy is to actually put wheelchair or medical device manufacturers there directly and enter it with them, just as we feel it'll be a lot safer for us to work directly with someone than trying to enter on our own.
Okay, great. I think we're at the end of our 10 minutes. So thank you very much for your presentation. And yeah, you did a great job. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you guys for taking the time out of your schedules to do this. And I know this is uncharted territory for all of us to do my first virtual pitch competition. I'm sure maybe for some of you guys as judges it is too. So we want to thank you for adapting to the new era that we're in. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Well done.